Welcome back to the Barley Lads. Today we're drinking Old Forester 86. This is Old Forester, or Old Forester 86. It's a Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey out of the Brown-Forman Distillery in Shively, Kentucky. 43% or 86 proof. It's a non-age statement, but a minimum of 4 years. Price-wise, you should be able to get this between $18 and $24. Mash bill, 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% barley. So, Old Forester, the brand has been around since 1870. It's actually named after a doctor who, I believe, endorsed it as a medicinal whiskey. But this was founded by George Gervin Brown, and he is of the Brown family of Brown-Forman. So Brown-Forman is one of the, if not the largest, family that owns multiple different distilleries. They own Woodford, Old Forester, as well as Jack Daniels, and they also own a couple of Scotch distilleries. They own Glendronach and Benriach. I think I pronounced those right. But like I said, so this has been around since 1870. At the time, though, he was sourcing it from 3 different distilleries, and he was one of the first, if not the first, to bottle his own whiskeys, whereas you would normally go to a pub or somewhere else and they would have the casks and they would make their pours there. But what made his unique is that he actually not only bottled and sealed each bottle, but then he signed each bottle to basically give it his seal of approval. So that continued until 1897, when the Bottled in Bond Act came into effect. And so it went from a 90 proof bourbon to 100 proof to be bottled in bond. And then he went on to buy a distillery because you could no longer be a secondhand supplier of whiskey, at least at that time. So he went on to buy a distillery, and that is where he continued the Old Forester line of whiskeys. This is also one of the only distilleries to not only still be owned by the same family, but to be produced before, during, and after Prohibition. They were one of, I think, 10 distilleries that were able to get a license to distill during Prohibition to market a medicinal whiskey. So this is basically considered their bottom shelf line, but they do have another series that they've released in the last few years called Whiskey Row. They have an 1870 bottling, which is what they consider their original bottling, an 1897 bottled in bond, a 1910, which is based on a whiskey that when they were shut down, their bottling line was shut down in 1910 because of a fire. So they already had poured some of the bourbon out of barrels, but they couldn't bottle it because of the fire. So they recasked it, and they released that as a very fine old whiskey, and it was one of the first double-barreled whiskeys to be released in the market. So that's that 1910. And then they also have their 1920 Prohibition bottling in the Whiskey Row, and it's become a very popular line of whiskeys. So you get vanilla, caramel, always. This is rye, not wheated, so you do get some of the peppery rye and oak. It is definitely younger. It's not, I think this is probably closer to the minimum of 4 age to be called straight bourbon. Again, the vanilla and caramel, but you get oak, some of the rice spice. I do get some black pepper. A warm finish. Not overly harsh, but it is young. For the price though, you know, around the $20, it's not bad. but certainly not one of the ones that I would buy first. So thank you again for watching another episode of the Barley Lads. Today we've been talking about Old Forester 86. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notifications when we post new videos. Cheers.